We are back on Morning Line talking about Tin Pan South 30th Annual, coming to Nashville for March 29th through April 2nd. It's going to be awesome. A chance to kind of, well, we're not playing music this morning, though I do wonder whether or not Phil wrote anything for the Wiggles.
No, I didn't, but I've done many shows with Dorothy the Dinosaur and all their friends, and they are the best guys.
They are. Listen, I brought that up if you were just joining us. He's done children's music as well as more, and then that just led him to this point. I just think that's great. So when we went to the break, we were talking about which comes first, you know, the melody and the tune or the words. And, you know, we heard from Jen. What do you guys say? I mean, Steve, what comes first, or do you have a preferred way of doing it?
Well, generally, I have a lot of ideas already written down, and so if there's a musical thing that's going on that's inspiring, I'll try to find an idea that fits that. It can work either way. I was working with a couple of guys in Aldine's band, and they had this amazing track going, and the question in the room was, well, what do we write about? And the bass player said, I'm seeing red. I said, all right, I think I can make something out of that. And so we kind of turned it into a song with a lot of seeing reds in it. It turned out to be a big hit, but it wasn't an idea that we had coming in. It was an idea that was inspired by the music and the licks. But most of the time, I'm pretty lyric driven.
Very interesting. How about you, Phil?
Well, Nick, yeah, it's like what Steve says. It's a lot of what happens in a room. You never know what you're going into most of the time, and it might be a groove or a guitar riff. Someone might just strum one chord, and it inspires a word. It's pretty amazing, and then you start flowing on a thing, and you never know. Like, most of the time I walk out of a room and I'm amazed, like, this little thing that, you know, wasn't even thought about is now a living kind of creature at the end of it. And it's like, I mean, there's days where you're just like, oh, this is just a part of my life. This song, like, I don't know how it never not existed, but anyway, it's such a crazy process. I love it.
I think it's
a lot of times, a lot of times nowadays we're writing with artists, and so if it's an artist that's going to have to sing the song, 300 times a year, then we give great credence to trying to help the artist make that song the best it can possibly be, but give a lot of weight to what they're feeling and what they want to say, and because they're the ones that have to stand on stage and sing it.
Absolutely, makes sense. Hey, let's take a phone call. We got a call from James. James, good morning. Hi, James.
Good morning, folks. How are you?
Morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I write from my soul and my heart. I've got a musical family, and my stepfather played country music for years. And my grandmother was a gospel singer, and she composed her own. So I learned from some really talented folks, because they knew so many people that were into country music and gospel over the years. I write from my heart and soul, current world events, and if I get asked to write something for somebody, I kind of target their genre.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, thank you for that. I mean, yeah, writing from your heart and soul, something that touches you, I guess, because that's how you really feel. That's the easiest way to do it, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
I don't mean easy, I guess means that's the purest way.
They tell you to write what you know.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah. And every song is you think there are finite amount of emotions, right? But we all feel them in some way. And so it's to be able to reach inside and kind of go back to something that you felt and write something true. And as Steve was touching on, when we're creating with artists, you're trying to, you want to create something that rings true to them, that they can share, and that feels authentic.
Right.
It's all about authenticity.
And when you guys write, and you finish a song, you were telling me during the commercial break, you just don't always know which song is going to be a hit. In fact, there may be one you think, this one's great. And this one that was kind of a throwaway that's on there as well is the one someone grabs, and it may be the one that becomes a hit.
Right.
Talk about just how quirky that is.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think we all have a sense some days when you're writing, you're like, this one feels special, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to get cut or get recorded soon. I mean, it could take years or it may not happen at all. And then there are other ones you're like, oh, it's okay. It's an okay song, and it gets cut right away. So yeah, there is no rhyme or reason to that. I mean, every once in a while you go, oh, this is a special one, but yeah, you never know. And that's what keeps you going too, though. You know, every day that we sit down to create something has the potential to be, I mean, an award-winning song. I mean, every day you have to kind of go in and go, every day has that potential.
So Steve, did you know that Praying for Daylight for Rascal Flatts was going to be a hit?
We felt really good about it when we wrote it. I took it actually to Mark Bright for my friends I went to high school with are part of Black Hawk, Henry Paul, and we took it. They put it on hold for a year, and then I didn't know there wasn't such a thing as Rascal Flatts, and one day Mark called me and said, I got to play you something. I hope you're not going to be mad. So he plays me the cut, and he said, it's a band. It's a new band. They don't have a deal yet, but they will in a week. They don't even have a name yet. And he played me the record. I went nuts and just said, how can I give him something else? How can I write with him? What can I do? So we knew it was a really special song because it was so unusual. That's what we try to do is take the roller coaster just to the edge so it scares people a little bit, but then they're back and they're safe again.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Phil, how about A Woman Like You for Lee Brice?
It was a little different than that. It was honestly one of the longest writes I've ever had. I think we wrote it all day for about 12 hours, and I felt just exhausted at the end, but the crazy thing that happened was John Stone, who I wrote it with, one of my co-writers, he was going past a grill out that Lee Brice was having at his house, and he said to Lee that night, something like, I think I wrote a great song today. So he wasn't really pitching it at him. He just said, do you want to hear this song? You know, like, I think this is a really great song. And he played it to Lee, and I woke up that next morning and there was a little recording of Lee singing our song. And really, I mean, Lee took that into Curb Records that day and said, I think this is my first single off the next record. And it ended up being his first #1 song. And I mean, it made all of our dreams come true, really, because, you know, I mean, I think I'd met Johnny Bulford, who was the other co-writer at, you know, a songwriter round. It might have been a Tin Pan show at the Commodore. And, I thought he had a great voice, and I asked him to write, and it was the third or fourth song we wrote was Woman Like You. And you know, it ends up being on the radio. I was driving a moped scooter at the time, so I never really heard it. On the radio, I just heard, I still think of it as a demo that, you know, we did, like, just the first recording, you know, and that's where the song was, and it's a beautiful journey.
See, I just love that. All right, so for you, Jen, I was looking, I mean, you've written so many. Mickey Guyton's Better Than You Left Me. How about that? I mean, is that kind of the same path there? How did it come about? Did you know it was going to be the...
You know, we knew it was something special, but, you know, the day we wrote that song, it was me and Jennifer Hansen and Mickey, and Jennifer and I had never met Mickey until that day, until that moment that she came in. And what I love about that, remembering about that day, is Mickey came in just an open book, and she was like, here's what's going on in my life. And for about 30 minutes, just kind of shared her heart and what was going on, and it was great material. And so Jennifer and I are looking through our song ideas, and I'd had the title Better Than You Left Me, and threw it out to them, and we ended up writing the song in about 90 minutes.
Yeah, I was going to ask too about time.
Yeah.
Like he was just talking about how that. I mean, he said a lengthy write, like 12 hours.
Yeah.
Now, I'm wondering. In my mind, I was thinking some songs, if you're taking your time, could take weeks to write.
Yeah.
But he said 12 hours straight. I could see that'd be exhausting. But you wrote it in under 2 hours.
Yeah, and it just depends. I mean,
What's the fastest you've ever wrote a song?
Gosh, I mean, I'd say an hour to 90 minutes.
Wow,
is probably
because it's just the inspiration hit and it all just came down.
It just poured out, but not every day is that way. And
Sure.
certain ideas just dictate they're going to take longer, and certain co-writing combinations I've found too. I know that we're probably going to take a couple days to finish the song.
That's so interesting. And then getting the song in front of the artists or to connect. Were you going to say something?
I was just going to say, yeah, it differs the situation, how long it takes. I mean, me and Steve went out on the bus one time with Darius Rucker, and it just, I mean, the great thing about writing with, say, Steve, for me, is he's a great lyricist, and I can do my melodies. And I think we wrote 3 songs in 2.5 hours, and it was a magical little afternoon, you know. I mean, just doesn't happen like that every day.
Yeah, and you know, it just sounds like fun. Sitting on a bus with Darius Rucker writing a song. God damn, 3 songs. All right, we'll take a break on that. We'll come back. Our final segment with you guys. This hour is flying by right after this, so stay with us more in just a moment.